Ani l'doidi v'doidi li, we know the whole idea. Chodesh Elul, Tol Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. The Chlalos, there's 40 days. The 40 days of Yemei Ratzon, there's a Gil of Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, and Chodesh Elul. The question the Alter Rebbe speaks about it, and it's brought down in Chassidus, why aren't the days of Elul Yom Tov? If there's a Gil of Yud Gimel Midas Harachim, like a Yom Tov, so why don't we have a Yom Tov all the days of Elul? So it's Yidua, the marshal of the Melech Basada. The Melech is revealed, the Gilu is there, but it's a Melech Basada. The Melech comes out to the Sada. It's not the way it is Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and the Heichal of the Melech. So you have the 40 days you made Ratzon to prepare yourself. The Iker, the 30 days of Elul, which is Sarusa de la Sata, Smoili Tachas the Reishi, Yemini Techapkeni is already Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. But here you have the name of Smoili Tachas L'Reishi, which with Derech Klal Smoil is Merachik. And the good here is you have Yemei Ratzon. You have the Iker, there 40 days. Moshe Rabbeinu went up to Har Sinai. There's Chodesh Elul, he came down on Yom Kippur. He knows that the Kapara was finished, and it comes out to be that that's Yom Kippur. The Kapara, the Eibush was Mechaper on the Avedas. It's 40 days. You have Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li, and the Seifi Teves of Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li. There are Yuds, 4 Yud. Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li is Yud, 4 times, which is Keneged, the 40 days that Moshe was on Har Sinai. And we know that also there's the idea of 40 Saw, to make it mikvah kosher. So you have this whole idea which is connected to being Mitahar the Olam. It's a Yemei Ratzon. If somebody actually cares about himself or his Nyonim, his Chafatzim, his Mishpacha, this is the time the Melech is in Basada. Now, how do you get to this idea of Melech Basada? How do you greet the Melech, the Eibishter Basada? So you have this idea of Kabbalah Soil. The more a person has the idea of Kabbalah Soil, comes to this idea that he comes to greet the Melech Basada. It's an interesting idea that it says by Ne'ilah, the Eibishter, the Melech comes already by Rosh Hashanah. He comes back to the palace, and only Yechidei Zgula can come greet him. So you have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. You have this idea of Ne'ilah, which is the high time of Ne'ilah. So what's Pshat? And the Eibishter locks the door. Ne'ilah means that he closes the door, and we're inside with the Melech in the Heichal Machosei. Now, in the idea of Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li, you have Haraya B'Sheishanim. There's a Dibra Masel, there's a post that says Haraya B'Sheishanim. Haraya B'Sheishanim, there's 2 Pirushim. Sheishanim is in the idea of Sheishanim HaTorah, Meloshin of Shinun, Shinatim Levanecho, through the idea of Limud HaTorah. Sheishan is also the idea of a rose. A rose has 13 Mechilin, the pallets, the leaves, whatever you want to call it, goes around 13 times. It's also the Shloishes Remidish HaTorah Nidreshes. We have this idea of 13 by Limud HaTorah. We also have the idea of 13 Midas Harachim, Hashem, which Yud Gimel Midas Harachim start by Kael. The whole idea of Kael, and it's explained out. The Rebbe says the whole idea of Kael is included in the word Yisrael. Yud is Bittul. Yud is the Nitzitz Aleki, which is alwaes mechober to the Eibishter. Sar, which is a servant. Kael to the Eibishter, which is Tmidi. Also, we have the idea of Kachayas Yehidatz, and all the ideas of a Yud before is in of Tmidis. You have Yisrael, Yud, Sa'ar, Kel, the Yud is in of Tmidis, which is in of Bittul, and the idea of Yisrael, which is serving the Eibishter, and Eifin of Bittul, and in Eifin of Tmidis. So you have the Gil of Yud Gimel Sarach. You have also the idea of Limud HaTorah, which is connected to 13. The whole idea of Chodesh Elul, Chodesh Harachim is the time to make a Cheshbon Nefesh, a Cheshbon Tzedek. And it's not to be bitter, it's not medidus, it's not atzvus, it's the meaning of there's a difference between atzvus and medidus. That medidus makes you do more, makes you do better. Hashenkin, atzvus, you're depressed, you go into your room, close the door, and lock yourself in the room and not want to continue. So medidus, mashenkin, in a way has in it a benefit by the idea of wanting to do more. But the best idea would be mitoch simcha. Cheshbon nefesh mitoch simcha. We know that Rosh Hashanah of Elul, there's a lot of Rosh Hashanah, but there's the Iker, the main Indian of Ani L'Doidi V'Doidi Li, Harei B'Sheishanim. Then you have, which is the Indian of davening to the Eibishter, Es Levavcha, Es Levav, to cut off the Arlo, Yisrael, Tshuva. You have the idea of Eslavav Eslavav. You have also the idea of Ishlarei Matanis Lavyenim, which is Gmilas Chasodim. You have Ashir al Hashem Yem B'Leimer that brings down from the Tzemach Tzedek, which is going on Az Yashir Lasud Lovi, which is connected to Geula. You have the idea of Yir Miklot in Ashir al Hashem V'Yem B'Leimer. You have the idea of Yir Miklot is the idea of Ina Liyadu V'Samti Loch. Ina Liyadu V'Samti Loch. Mokim Asher Yanu Sham the Ritzech, the Gil Adam wants to get the person. So you have the Din of Yir Miklot, which is the Din of Torah, which is Yir Miklot. You have also the idea of Oil Rasha, the Shchenoi, so that brings it down on the Sichis. Chlal, the Rebbe Rashab speaks about it in the Zamayim. You can't be mastic, it's asked by saying that your friend's peer pressure caused you to do something. It's according to the person, he has to be a Rosh Hashanah, he has to be a leader, not a follower. The whole idea in the Nekuda here is that it's time to make a Cheshbon Hanefesh, a Cheshbon Tzedek, not to fool yourself. And the whole idea is that it should bring you to do more, to a year passed. It's not another thing. It's an Indian 11. If a day went by, a year went by, a person in some high law school somewhere, he has to give a calculated cheshbon, what he did every 8 minutes, every 10 minutes. There has to be something there on the chart to tell him that he filled in the time. Comes the end of the year, there has to be something that you come with the din of cheshbon and to fill in the year and say this is something that we need to fix. The whole idea of stocking, right? It's brought down on halacha. Why do you check your tefillin, mezuzahs, and chodesh Elul? It's not only that; it's anything that needs to be checked. It's the time to fix it in chodesh Elul. So the ikar is to do something about it, make an episode cheshbon nefesh, cheshbon tzedek. And the main thing is that the Eibusher knows and the Eibusher feels, and every person is different. Like it's brought down that each person is different. The main thing is something Lashon that the Bitcher Springer Lav Shalom always says that the koil of the shofar is two in Yiddish is to do. So I heard from my father that the Bitcher always used to bring with the din of two. And darf ton, das ist dinin von a shayfer. And darf ton. You say by the Fabrengens, the Rebbe always says, "V'oid v'oikir." And you thought the Fabrengens about the end. V'oid, and the Rebbe continues another few inyanim. V'oid v'oikir. What's the Rebbe telling you? That the oid, the little bit, or that oid is the ikir. The only thing is to add. Kopruto, mitzarefes l'cheshbon gadol. And darf ton. You can't go to sleep until you actually did something. You can't see tomorrow you're gonna. Rabbi Steinsaltz used to bring about this Indian that it's. They always say people want to do they fabring and they get inspired, but then they go to sleep. So the kudah is to take it by mamish and to actually continue it and do something about it. And the cheshbon hanefesh, chodesh Elul, Melech Basada, the Melech goes into the palace. The whole idea of the Melech going into the palace is to tell you just that the Lashon and the marshal is that the whole idea is what are you going to do after the whole inspiration? After the whole inspiration, now what are you going to do? The Melech is already in the Eichel. The day after Simchas Torah, the day after Yidden got the Torah, did Eigel Azov, they could go do an Aveda because it wasn't something that they did. It wasn't the Yisharus de Lasata. It has to be in an Eifen of Yisharus de Lasata. It's always a constant idea that the person is doing something melamato, and that's what makes it emes. Ish mazriya tchila. You let this Kevo. Isha mazras tchila. You let this zachar. What's the whole idea of it? If it's a ish, if it's the ibish there, if it's ma'ila mata by matan Torah or the giluy, even in chodesh Elul, the reason why the person goes out to the sod is because the melech. So be'etzem it's a eridus on the melech. It's ma'ila mata. There has to be a change. It has to be. Eliyahu, enough is enough. There has to be this idea that you stop and you say, from now we're going to continue, or we're going to stop and we're going to do new, and we're going to take it b'emes. That's the whole idea of chodesh Elul, that it has to be b'etzem, b'rotzim, and the more you do, the more you get. The more koiches you do, the Eibusher gives you more and more and more. The Eibusher's bleak wool. Whenever Yid is connected to the bleak wool, and they got the koiches, and connected to the Rebbe, and the Rebbe's whole idea is to be mashpiyah. 2, in Mekushar, Meshayach, Malayim. So the Ikirinin is, Zayin des Galus, Tekef, Mayad Ma'am Shichi, Adinenu, Ayenu, Rabbeinu Melech, Amashiach Le'Amod.